The right 25. Let's go ahead and call the Senate to order. The Sergeant at Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seats. There's lots of echoes. Madam Clerk, please. What happened? Oh, great, we found it. All right.
Oh.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President?
Mm-hmm. All right. We will substitute the invocation from the prior session for today's session. This beautiful morning that is 8 p.m. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 29, enough to override a veto, senators present, the Senate in Maryland is now again in session. Any introductions? Anyone like to introduce the ghosts of Christmas past? All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Let's try and push through as much as we can. The goal being that we leave, we're going to have a lot of work on Monday, but if we can get enough done today, we can have a nice weekend, rest, relax, recover. All right. So it'll be the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We will start with the Budget and Tax Committee. This is report number 41. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 191, Delegate Polakovich-Carr, income tax payments of fines, penalties, and other amounts, addition modification, favorable with 2 amendments.
Would we like to special order the bill? Okay. All right, the chair moves that we special order the bill to the appropriate time at the end of the calendar today. Any objections? Without objections, so ordered. Well, Madam Clerk, can we ring the bells, or Secretary, can we ring the bells one more time? We have some third readers. Okay. All right, it appears we do have another second reader from Judicial Proceedings, calendar number 45. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1300, Chair, Judiciary Committee, Family Law, Child Care, Criminal Background Investigations, favorable.
Thank you, Mr. President. This departmental bill alters the statutory provisions related to the criminal background check investigations for specified individuals who care for, supervise, or otherwise have specific access to children. There are no committee amendments. I move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1300 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, let's, looks like we now have got a healthy group. Let's do a quorum call before third reading calendar.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 39 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. We've got Senate bills. This is third reading calendar number 68. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 240, Senator Gazzone, income tax, out-of-state taxes paid by pass-through entities, addition modification.
Senate Bill 240 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 240, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 959, Senator Benson, Higher Education Maryland 529 Program Reform. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 959 is on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 959, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to consent calendar number, we'll go to Senate third reading calendar number 30. Clerk, read the calendar.
reading House Bill calendar number 30, consent calendar number 12.
All right, we are at consent calendar number 12. These are bills out of the EE committee. Yes, Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Mr. President, I wonder if I could remove House Bill 509.
509.
There's no problem with the bill. I'd just like to remove it for a single vote. Thank you.
509. We will, without objection, the 509 will be voted separately. Any others? Any others? These are bills on third reading, House bills on third reading for final passage. If we're ready, other than 509, consent calendar number 12, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 12 have received a constitutional majority or declared passed. Clerk will read the new bill.
House Bill 509, Delegate Tomlinson, State Board of Elections, Municipal Elections, Publication of Results on website.
All right. House Bill 509 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 509 have received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to third reading calendar number 33. Clerk will read the calendar.
third reading House Bill calendar number 33, consent calendar number 13.
All right. These are House bills out of Judicial Proceedings Committee. On a consent calendar, House bills on third reading for final passage. Senators, any bills that senators wish to separate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? Clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 13 have received a constitutional majority or declared passed. Let's go to consent calendar, or Senate calendar number 36. Clerk will read the calendar.
third reading House Bill calendar number 36, consent calendar number 14.
All right. Senators, these are House bills on third reading for final passage. Please take a look. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District.
Yeah, can we pull out HB 3, please?
3, HB 3. HB 3 is going to be separated. Any additional? Any further bills separated? All right. For the remainder of the bills other than House Bill 3 on consent calendar number 14, third reading, final passage, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 14 have received a constitutional majority or declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill number 3, Delegate Bartlett, Maryland State Police Gun Center firearms surrendered under final protective orders.
All right, House Bill 3. House Bill 3 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 3 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Let's take up calendar number 39. clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill number 11, Delegate Stewart, Private Well Safety Act of 2023.
House Bill 11 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 11 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 90, Delegate Foley, Local Government Regulatory Powers, Regulation of Invasive Bamboo.
All right, House Bill 90 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 90 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 128, Delegate Crosby, Private Passenger Motor Vehicle Liability Insurance, Enhanced Underinsured Motorist Covered Opt-out Option.
House Bill 128 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel, floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment, a committee amendment on this.
All right,
House
Senator
bill.
has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the Senator's amendment.
You're funny. It's a technical amendment. The everlasting bill. I used to like you. Mr. President, this
Yes,
is a
Senator,
technical
explain the
amendment.
amendment.
It just, on page 3 in line 19, strikes the word offer.
All right, strikes the word offer. Senator has moved the amendment. Any objections to the amendment?
Yes, Mr. President,
Yes,
that's
Chair
a
recognizes
really
Senator
good amendment.
number
I'm
six.
going to vote for it.
Okay, thank you, Senator. All right, on numbers, any further discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Do we have any further amendments to the bill or its title? All right, House Bill 128 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? Yeah. All right, if not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 128, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 185, Delegate Ebersol, Non-Public Schools and Child Care Providers Corporal Punishment Prohibition.
House Bill 185 is on third reader, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 36 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 185, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 243, Delegate Corman, Baltimore City Young Readers Program and Young Readers Matching Grant Program Alterations, Young Readers Program Act of 2023.
House Bill 243 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 243, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 325, Delegate Terrassa, Provision of Veterinary Services Practice of Veterinary Medicine and Rabies Vaccine.
House Bill 325 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the Minority Whip on the bill.
Mr. President, I was just going to confirm that this bill is this similar to what we did earlier in session that we worked out with the veterinarians?
Let's check with the floor leader, the senator from Frederick.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I got somebody had corresponded with me, and I think they hadn't gotten the memo, but I was just trying to be about the compromise, but I was just trying to be sure it was the same as what we did. So
We amended the House bill to match the Senate bill, which was a workout with the veterinarians.
a wise workout with the veterinarians. Thank you, Mr.
Excellent.
President.
All right, on third reading, final passage. Any further discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 325, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 869, Delegate Boyce, Department of the Environment Study on Death Care and Funeral Practices.
All right, House Bill 869 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. Maybe this is one we should take up on Monday. Are we okay with that?
Mr. President, I'd like to move to special order this to Monday.
Let's take this up on Monday. I think we have plenty of time. If there's any objections, without objection, special order the bill to the appropriate time on Monday. All right, clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 950, Delegate Stein, Maryland Native Plants Program.
House Bill 950 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 950 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1111, Delegate Phillips, Baltimore County Insurance Certificates of Guarantee for County Bond Requirements.
House Bill 1111 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1111 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1219, the Speaker, Maryland Educator Shortage Act of 2023.
House Bill 1219 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th.
No, I'm sorry. I need to
On
register
okay.
a green vote at the end of the calendar.
All right. On anyone else want to explain their vote? Chair recognizes the senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to explain my green vote. I had some concerns, and I appreciate originally talking to the floor leader about it. I just like to remind everyone that I am going to vote green for this, and next year when we talk about some of the issues that have happened for smaller school districts with the implementation of the blueprint and the educators. Remind everybody that my Garrett County is looking at closing 4 out of its 8 elementary schools because of the blueprint. That's a 50% closure rate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. All right. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1219 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Let's go to
Mr. President?
Yes. Oh, yes. Chair recognizes senator from 27th.
Could I be registered green on HB 3?
HB 3 in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from the 34th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Green on House Bill 243.
243 in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 4.
Mr. President, if you could, I was on campus, so could I be shown in the consent calendar in the green on 12?
On 12?
Yes, sir.
12? Sarah, on 12.
Yes, Mr.
Any
President.
objections? Any objections? Without objection, so ordered.
And I was also on campus for SB 240. I'd like to be shown in the red, and SB 959 in the green. Thank you.
240 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Number 40. Clerk, read the first bill.
House Bill 16, Delegate J. Lewis, Primary and Secondary Education, Title IX, Notice, Hear Our Voices Act.
House Bill 16 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 16 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 70, Delegate Charkoudian, Safe Access for All Safe Roads Act of 2023.
House Bill 70 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 70 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 123, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, Vehicle Laws, HOV Lanes, Plug-in Electric Drive Vehicles. This is an emergency bill.
House Bill 123 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment, please.
Senator has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just as a reminder, this was legislation to reauthorize a program that MDOT has to provide electric vehicles with a HOV sticker on their car so that they could use those lanes. Again, this program has been running for a number of years. It sunsetted. It actually sunsetted in September last year, so it's an emergency bill to get that up and going again. This amendment simply requires the administration to charge a fee up to $20. So right now the bill says that they may. The administration has told us that they plan to do that, but I just want to make sure that that's accurate. And again, it could be anywhere up to $20, and I move the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader. Chair recognizes Senator from Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this amendment actually, it does exactly as the minority leader said, and with that in mind, I do know that the intention was to start charging a fee, specifically since it doesn't determine what that fee should be. The legislation already does allow for that fee to be up to $20. So upon consulting with the chair of the committee and the sponsor of the bill, we've decided it is a very moderately friendly amendment. So we consider it friendly-ish.
All right, friendly-ish. All right.
It is certainly within the spirit and the intent of the bill, and so it is friendly, especially at this hour, since we have time to get it through.
All right. On the amendment, any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. HB 123 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 123, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 127, Delegate Moon, District Court Small Claims Enforcement of Money Judgments.
House Bill 127 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 127, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 144, Delegate Shi, Real Estate Brokers Inactive Licenses Requirements.
All right. We're getting a little testy. Let's pull it together. All right, clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 144, Delegate Shi, Real Estate Brokers Inactive Licenses Requirements after expiration.
All right, House Bill 144 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 144, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 248, Delegate Forbes, Baltimore County, Class B, ECF/DS Education Conference Facility Dining Services, licensed Towson University.
House Bill 248 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 248, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 622, Delegate Shi, Economic Development Industry 4.0 Technology Grant Program.
House Bill 622 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 622, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 834, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, Electric Vehicle Charging Infrastructure Requirements, Electric Vehicle Charging Reliability Act.
House Bill 834 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 834, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1011, Delegate Stein, Public Safety Refrigerants Limitations on Use.
House Bill 1011 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1011, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1188, Delegate Atterbury, Public Utilities Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, Solar Photovoltaic Systems.
House Bill 1188 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. Yep. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th. Oh, any senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 38 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 1188, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was a little behind. I need to be recorded in the red on HB 1219, 123.
What, 1219?
And then 123, 127, and 144. I said I was a little behind. Bring me more than a little.
All right. Any objections? Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Let's go to this concurrence calendar out of judicial proceedings. We've got, this is calendar number 18. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 39, Central Wall Striker, Criminal Procedure, Expungement of Records, Waiting Periods, Redeem Act of 2023. Motion to concur with House amendments.
All right. On the chair recognizes, the chair of the committee. Chair of the committee. Or vice chair of the committee. On the
Thank you,
amendments
Mr. President. The motion is to concur in the House amendments. The House bill adds malicious destruction.
All right. Questions on the motion to concur. Chair recognizes the senator from District 4 on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm waiting on an amendment. Can we move this to the end of the calendar? I'm waiting on an amendment in regards to this bill.
There are no amendments permitted on this one. This is a concurrence. So it's only the House amendments. Only the House amendments.
Okay, thanks.
All right, on the House amendments, the Vice Chair has moved to concur on the House amendments. Any objections on the concurrence? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 37 is now again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the minority whip on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if we could hear from the floor leader what, if the floor leader would yield for question.
Floor leader will yield.
If you could remind the body what is being added with this and what is the change to the amount of time?
Well, thank you for the question. As the bill was before the Senate previously, the bill added no offenses or subtracted any offenses to our expungement statute. All it did was reduce the expungement waiting period. There have been a number of offenses that both chambers have wished to add to the expungement statute. For example, this chamber in a separate bill added DUIs. The House has saw fit to add malicious destruction. Now, malicious destruction sounds angry, but what it is petty vandalism, which was not included when we passed justice reinvestment with bipartisan support 8 years ago. There is wide consensus that that wasn't left out by a purposeful policy choice, and that was that petty vandalism was meant to go in and should be expungible. So the House added that in. We took that and agreed with it in the committee, and thus the motion to concur.
Okay, and in this bill, because we're here on the 87th day of the legislative session, and we still to this point, and I understand there may be a little piece that's been added to a bill that's coming later, but up to this point, we've passed legislation to make it to make a technical fix, it was called, to how quickly you can parole someone who's in jail for a pretty serious crime, but is medically it's a medical situation. We've done things to now reduce. This bill reduces how long someone has to wait to have a criminal record expunged. I concede your point about the crime that was added. I understand malicious destruction of property. It's not you didn't take a flamethrower necessarily to somebody's house, but it is still a criminal act. With so many different bills that have passed here, just to be clear here, somebody now can wait. We're cutting in about half the time that somebody can wait to have a record expunged.
Well, it depends on the nature of the offense. We're taking so as you know, violent felonies are not expungible ever. The only things that are expungible are certain nonviolent felonies and misdemeanors. Nonviolent felonies will go from 15 to 7, and misdemeanors will go from 10 to 5. And let me tell you why that's relevant, just recalling the earlier Senate debate. Most states allow some form of shielding or expungement. And when we did this in 2016 under the previous governor, we were really at the leading edge of criminal justice reform. But right now, our expungement waiting periods are the 42nd longest in the nation. Our expungements are longer than states that perhaps are closer to the ideology of you and your party, like Mississippi, Utah, other red-leaning states. And so we're really behind the curve in terms of the length of our expungement waiting period. And this bill puts us back in the mainstream of expungement waiting periods across the country.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the answers and reminding the body about the bill. I appreciate it. Mr. President, just speaking on the bill for a moment, and this is really an issue not just about this bill, but about the overall issue of how we're dealing with crime in the state. The gentleman from Montgomery County talks about the work we did 8 years ago on criminal justice reform, which I supported and was, I think, was co-sponsor of the bill, actually, and do support the idea of prison reform and supported the idea of particularly nonviolent drug offenses and nonviolent offenses, giving people a second opportunity, making sure we give those people a second chance. The context of where we are 8 years later, with a number of issues, I think we would gladly trade our criminal rate for Utah's, and so I'm not sure that talking about their expungements being better, their expungement waiting period being shorter than ours is necessarily a good comparison. We have an issue with surging crime in the state, and this is just another example, candidly, of the attitude here, which is that we always need to be looking out for how we can take care of those who've committed crimes and make things more fair for them instead of really going after and doing more things to strengthen our laws dealing with those who are committing criminal offenses. So, Mr. President, I'm going to be voting no on this bill, encourage the body to do so as well, and I hope we have a chance to make some progress here in the next couple of days.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the floor leader would yield for a question, please.
Floor to yield. Senator may proceed.
So, thank you for your willingness to discuss this. You know, one of the provisions that came over on this concurrence calendar that had me concerned is that the language was changed on our version of the bill that we passed, and I think with great support, because we do believe in the restorative justice programs and how we're trying to, allow citizens to not have single acts held over their head and affect the rest of their lives. But when it came back over, and what this concurrence is about, is there's two significant parts. I support the destruction of property. I have no problem with it. But on Section B, it says, when ordering or effecting an expungement under this subtitle, the court shall waive any court fees and costs associated with the charge being expunged. I find it highly ironic and somewhat disturbing that when I look at the court costs and where they go to, it's a $45 fee. $22.50 goes to the State Victims Crime Fund. I find that ironic that we're now going to take away monies to support the victims of these very acts. So that's a change. Sorry. So that's what I wanted to have heard. That was the consideration I needed to have, and I think that we should really think about this, because $22.50 goes to the State Crimes Victims Fund, $20 goes to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund, and $250 goes to the Victim and Witness Protection and Relocation Fund. I think these are important. They're necessary, and we're once again allowing someone who has done a wrong act, we're allowing them to be integrated back in and expunge this act that they did, but they did it and there's victims to it. And this is just another example of where we're taking away the victims. We're forgetting about the victims. We don't have any pro-victim legislation coming through yet. We've done a lot to restore criminal acts and restore justice, but this one is actually literally taking away from putting money that these people should have to pay as a part of their expungement to these victims' funds?
Well, on the bill, Senator, the language that we included and concurred to does not affect payment to the victim of the crime. So we were talking about malicious destruction earlier. Let's say you tagged up the side of a school, and as part of the punishment, the judge required you to pay the cost of remedying that, of cleaning it up. You would not be able to expunge your record under the bill in front of you until you paid the restitution to the victim, to the school, or an individual, or whoever was damaged by your criminal act. And so restitution is 100% required under the legislation.
Actually, Senator, what I read, the other amendment that the House added in under Section A says any unpaid court fees or costs are not a bar to expungement under this subtitle.
That's right. Those are not court fines and fees and restitution are two separate things and different concepts. The bill requires you to make good on your restitution before you are allowed to expunge.
Okay, I appreciate that, but can we agree then that this legislation, they don't even have to have paid the first time court fees, nor from when the case was adjudicated, nor would they be required to pay the fees at the time of the expungement?
So here's where I think you and I can agree. When you give people second chances, you bring them back into the mainstream economy. And that allows people to get jobs and pay taxes. And those taxes goes into the very funds that you reference. When you saddle people with a scarlet letter for their entire life, how can they participate in the mainstream economy? How can they get a job? The way you want people to repay society, their debt to society, is through the taxes they pay when they redeem themselves, which is, of course, the title of this bill, and return to society, re-enter society, get a job, pay taxes, and uphold their responsibilities.
Senator, I understand that, but that's not what this bill's about. What I'm saying is this bill directly, with this new addition, changes and alters our bill that we passed cleanly to a bill that now, once again, allows someone that preyed upon or perpetuated an act where there's a victim involved to never have to pay to any of the funds that we have built into the fee system in court, specifically the State Victims Crime Fund, the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund, and the Victim and Witness Protection and Relocation Fund. So we're not, I'm all about second chances, but we're not thinking about, once again, the victims. So this literally takes away money from those that are affected directly by these acts by these people. It's not about not giving second chances. It's about paying your debt. I'm about fulfilling the obligation. Pay your debt to society with your time served, be able to be expunged, but a part of that is the court costs associated with your trial or with your expungement, that it goes to the Crime Victims Fund. That's what this is about. I understand what you had said, but that's not what this question is about, and that's not what these changes to this concurrence do. It takes away from victims. So with that, I would urge an unfavorable concurrence with this.
All right. On the Senate Bill 37 is on third reading for final passage. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Chair recognizes the minority whip, has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Just to quickly explain my vote, one other thing I noticed as I was listening to the debate and reading the bill, the new amendments here allow someone to apply for expungement that has unpaid court fees and filings. So they've literally thumbed their nose at the court system. We're saying that's okay. Now it sounds like they do have to still pay restitution, but this is not the right approach. This is not the right signal to be sending, and it's part of a larger issue here. And my colleague from Frederick County pointed out well, but my vote is no on this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Yes, and it'll be very quick. I just want to add one consideration to this debate is I have an entire constituency in my district that makes their living on the water. They're commercial watermen. There's no expungement for them, okay? They get kicked off, they don't come back. And I just hope that people keep this in mind as we debate these issues, which are obviously of enormous concern. However, there's one group that is left out that's not part of this conversation, that when you say this penalty, there's no coming back, there's permanent revocation for seafood commercial workers, families, men and women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. All right. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 29 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 37 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 330, Senator Reedy, Public Safety, Law Enforcement, Body-worn Cameras, Body-worn Camera Appropriation and Financing Act of 2023.
Recognizing Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments provide that DJS has to work in coordination with DO-IT. They have to negotiate the contracts at the request of one or more of the law enforcement agencies with the third parties for the acquisition, maintenance of the body-worn cameras, equipment, and the technology for law enforcement agencies. The House amendments also require DJS to notify all the law enforcement agencies of contracts under the bill by posting the contracts on the e-Maryland Marketplace Advantage website. The Senate committee, we move to concur unanimously.
All right. On the House amendments, the Chair urges that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 330 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 330 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 579, Senator Hayes, Residential Property Service Agreements Prohibitions.
Senate Bill. Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments here expanded the definition of residential property under the bill to include any number of dwelling units designed for human habitation, a residential condominium, and a unit of cooperative project. The Senate committee moved unanimously to concur, so the motion is to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 579 is now again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 579 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 858, Senator Smith, Firearm Safety, Storage, Requirements, and Youth Suicide Prevention, Jalen's Law.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendment strikes several provisions of this bill and provide in relevant part that a person may not store or leave a loaded firearm where a person knew or should have known that an unsupervised minor has access to the firearm. The House amendments, Mr. President, also make provisions of the bill that prohibit a person from possessing a regulated firearm under certain circumstances that apply to convictions that occur on or after the effective date of the bill. The bill moved to concur unanimously, making a motion to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the amendments are adopted. Question now is on the Senate Bill 858 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from the 37th District on the bill.
Just to be very quick, I appreciate the intent of the legislation. However, there are laws in effect currently governing storage of firearms. This could unintentionally make lawful gun owners felons or criminals. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 858 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. All right, let's take up this special order executive nominations report.
Mr. President.
Oh, yes, Chair recognizes Senator from the 27th.
I do apologize, a little distracted tonight. Senate Bill 37, vote in the green.
37 in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 128 in the red.
128 in the red. Any objections? Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 123 in the red, please.
123 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from the 34th.
Thank you. Red on House Bill 128.
128 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. We have special order calendar number 52. Clerk will read the report.
Executive Nominations Report number 9. Question is, will the Senate advise and consent to the nominations of the executive?
All right, Chair recognizes the Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Calendar number 9, hopefully the final calendar, includes 1 secretary and 1 adjunct general, and was 56 that appeared, 134 statewide, 25 local. I request that we consider these nominees in our regular section now under Rule 22A.
All right, the Chair's moved that we hear the nominees in open session. Are there any objections? Without objections, so ordered.
Ready?
All right.
The committee voted favorably on numbers 1 through 56, favorable on S1 through S43 and S45, and favorable on numbers L1 through 25.
All right, so we'll take that group up first. We'll take up that group first. Let's double check. Is that? Okay, so we'll take up all but the one that was voted separately. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. All but S44.
All but S44. Okay, so report 9, all but S44. The question is, will the Senate advise and consent on the nominations of the executive? Any discussion on this group of nominees? Green vote will in the affirmative, red vote in the negative. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, the Senate votes affirmatively for nominees on report number 9 and advises and consents affirmatively. Let's take up the next question. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee voted 14-4 unfavorable for S44.
All right, so unlike a bill, this one's a little bit different. So the question remains the same. The question is, will the Senate advise and consent affirmatively? A green vote would be yes, a red vote would be no. As the chair just advised, that the committee recommended negatively. So discussion on the nominee. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually didn't know it came to the floor like this. But it's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about the process and and why we should approve this nominee. Both parties. This is a Republican Party nominee. The governor has, of course, makes the nomination to us, but the names are supplied to him by our 2 parties. One is the Democratic Party in the state. The other is the Republican Party. For the State Board of Elections. Thank you, for the State Board of Elections. We had a pretty extensive discussion in the committee about this, with a nominee that there were some questions about, who actually took the time to elaborate on some of the answers and make sure it was clear where she stood. And the committee sadly rejected it anyway, without being able to really say that the person was not qualified for the job, but just that the opinions that she espoused were not in favor, and frankly they felt like there should be a different type of experience for a nominee for the elections board. My contention, and the contention we made, is that's not really the call of this body when you're dealing with a nomination from a party. Whenever the Democratic Party has nominated someone for the State Board of Elections, I generally will defer to that. Now, if somebody has a criminal record or there's some sort of disqualifying action that they've taken, that's maybe a different situation. But this nominee was rejected basically because the supermajority in this state Senate within the committee said, we think the other party, not our party, should do somebody different. They couldn't point to a situation where she was disqualified or any disqualifying information, just that they didn't care for certain opinions she expressed, and they felt like it should be somebody different. And so, Mr. President, I think that it's not right. It's not the right way to do things. I think we have to tread very carefully when we talk about these sort of partisan positions. And so I would ask the body to support the nominee and support the right of the minority party to designate the people that they want on the State Board of Elections. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the...
Mr. President.
Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from College Park.
Yeah, I want to speak to this issue and the question that the Senator raises. The Constitution says advise and consent. The Senate is in these decisions for a reason in the Constitution. And we have a responsibility to make our best judgment. It does say that the parties will propose candidates to the governor, and the governor will make the nomination. But the Constitution requires us to use our best judgment from both parties. And I'm on executive noms. I heard the testimony. I didn't agree with everything she said, but that is not why I did not support her. Her level of experience with elections is very thin, very thin. She seems like a good person. I'm sure she's a wonderful human being. But our responsibility with the governor and with the political parties, in the case of the Board of Elections, is get the best people we can for these very important jobs. And I know lots of Republicans, including those who have served in this chamber and served in the other chamber, and who are active in my counties, who I think would do an outstanding job on the Board of Elections as a Republican nominee. Unfortunately, this nominee is not that person. And so my hope is that if she is not confirmed, that the Republican Party will go back and find a terrific Republican candidate for this position.
All right. On the nominee, if there's no further discussion, the green vote will be in the affirmative, a red vote will be in the negative. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote?
Mr. President, I thought we were voting in the affirmative with the unfavorable from the committee.
The recommendation, the recommendation from the committee is no, but the only body that exists is the full Senate. So any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 31 votes in the negative. The senators, the nomination is not advised and consented to affirmatively. All right, let's go to the next. We've got calendar number 42. And Madam Chair, apologies. We were trying to clarify the right procedural way on this one, and I think we didn't get that last little update, that it's not like the bill on fair, so it has to be done differently. Going back to court cases to figure out what is the right step. We're going to go to third reading calendar number 42. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 151, Delegate Wells, Real Property Residential Leases Notification of Rent Increases.
All right, House Bill 151 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 151 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 219, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County Golf Carts on Public Highways.
House Bill 219 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 219 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 262, Delegate Foley, Abandoned Vehicles, Secured Parties, Electronic Notification.
House Bill 262 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 262 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 480, Delegate Rogers, Department of Veterans Affairs, Burial and State Veterans, Cemetery, Spouses, and Dependents.
House Bill 480 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 480 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 630, Delegate Queen, Utility Account Holders, Victims of Abuse Protections.
House Bill 630 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 630, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 751, Delegate Bridges, Public Safety Officer and Community Wellness Training Grant Fund.
House Bill 751 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 751, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 808, Delegate Williams, Reproductive Health Protection Act.
House Bill 808 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 808, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 817, Delegate Rosenberg, State Government Regulation Procedures and the Maryland Registrar.
House Bill 817 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 817, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 824, Delegate Clippinger, Public Safety Regulated Firearms Possession and Permits to Carry, Wear, and Transport a Handgun.
House Bill 824 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two amendments to propose on this bill. Maybe we would want to special order it till Monday. We did Senate Bill 1, had a lot of discussion some time ago. I understand today the House has spent all day on Senate Bill 1. This is the House version of Senate Bill 1, which is very different from Senate Bill 1, but it's the House contribution to that debate.
All right, the senator's moved to special order the bill until Monday. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just reject that. We can have this debate right now with the two amendments. And just for the record, this is substantially different than Senate Bill 1. It's been decoupled. Senate Bill 1 really had two components of it. One was sensitive locations and one was the wear-carry permit renewal process. So that's what is before us in this bill. So I'd say let's move forward with the debate.
All right.
Okay. I'm prepared to go now. I
Okay,
just thought
let's-
you wanted to special order a bill earlier that was going to take some time.
No
and
worries.
I thought maybe this would be the same position. So.
All right, so if the senator withdraws the motion on
Yeah,
the
I
special
withdraw
order
the motion.
and would like to introduce the amendment, pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
Fine.
All right, Senator, explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So here we are once again discussing the constitutionality of a piece of legislation that we're going to be asked to pass this evening. Senate Bill 1, which we discussed earlier and passed earlier, was replete with provision after provision after provision which were unconstitutional. And I expressed my view that it would be very quickly struck down by the courts as unconstitutional. This bill, by contrast, is not nearly so problematic, but it does have two provisions in it which I believe are firmly unconstitutional. It seems to me we ought to try to pass bills that are constitutional. It does us no good to pass an unconstitutional bill and have the courts strike it down. So this First Amendment, one provision in the bill provides that handguns can only be sold to someone who is at least 21 years old. That is unconstitutional. Handguns under the Constitution, both before the Bruin decision and after the Bruin decision, the federal courts have been holding that you cannot prevent 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and 20-year-olds from buying handguns. So this is a very short amendment which strikes the 21-year-old limit and substitutes an 18-year-old unit. All you need to be under this amendment to buy a gun is an adult. And an adult in Maryland is someone who's over 18 years old. So that's the simple explanation as to what the bill does. And why don't we let the floor leader talk for a moment, and then I'll come back and I'll disagree with his interpretation of the law.
That's what we do every
Yes.
day. But yeah.
All right. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee, or excuse me, the floor leader on the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd urge the body to reject this because a lot of what we've discussed and a lot of what you've discussed today is the constitutionality of our current statute, not in this bill, but the current statute as interpreted after the Bruin decision. And those are forthcoming decisions that will be challenged, I'm sure, but we don't have the answer to those questions yet. I mean, these are evolving issues that literally happen every month, every week, every day. And so that's one thing. I think we let the courts decide once the challenge starts. But also, under Maryland law, you are a prohibited person for these regulated firearms if you're under 21. That's in the current Maryland statute, which I'm sure will be challenged. But let's let the courts have that. Let's let that play out in the courts. And so, under our public safety article, there obviously are exceptions for if you have this regulated firearm if you're under 21, and those are also enumerated in our public safety article 5-133. But right here, the bill does create exceptions, and that's for a person who is a member of the armed forces, the National Guard, or the uniformed services. So this is consistent with the construction of our current statute. This legal issue has not been determined yet. It hasn't even been challenged yet in Maryland courts. And so for those reasons, if we accept your amendment, we're going to be inconsistent with current Maryland law, and so I'd ask the body to reject it.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion, or any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. The reason why I'm pursuing this is, if we pass laws that are unconstitutional, they're going to be struck down. And even though the laws contain severability clauses, the courts will not go through legislation sentence by sentence or word by word and decide, well, this word is unconstitutional, we have to get rid of it, but we'll leave the rest. A severability provision allows a court to strike an entire provision and leave everything else in the statute alone, and the statute survives but for that one provision. The laws that we're passing are complicated, and the unconstitutional provisions are peppered throughout the laws. So and what this is going to do, just to take an example, is under the Bruin case, the Supreme Court held that guns could be banned at polling places. Maryland does not currently have a law banning guns in polling places. Now, what we're passing this year does ban guns in polling places, but if the law is struck down as being unconstitutional, it means we're going to arrive for the primaries next spring and the general election next fall, and people, if they want to, will be able to carry guns in the polling places. Now, if we passed constitutional provisions that didn't get struck down, then the provision that says guns are illegal in polling places would stand, and people next year would not be able to take guns into polling places. But if we put that into an unconstitutional bill and the bill gets struck down, then people next year will be able to carry guns into polling places. This is a problem with passing unconstitutional legislation, which has some provisions that are constitutional and others that are not constitutional. Now let me talk about this one in particular, the sale of guns to people who are between 18 and 21 years old. The federal government has a judicial system with the Supreme Court at the apex. The entire country is divided into circuit courts of appeal. Maryland is part of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, along with Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. So the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals governs the law here in Maryland, and the U.S. District Courts in Maryland will follow the lead of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in 2021 in the Hirschfeld versus BAFT case, Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco, the Fourth Circuit held, this was, mind you, pre the Bruin decision, which came out this past June, that the federal ban on the sale of handguns to 18 to 21-year-olds by licensed dealers was unconstitutional. This was a decision based on the U.S. Constitution, holding, and it governs the Maryland U.S. courts, holding that a ban on the sale of handguns to 18 to 20-year-olds is unconstitutional. So when this bill, if it passes, is pulled into federal court, U.S. District Court right here in Maryland, the U.S. District Court will look as its authority to the Hirschfeld decision and will hold this bill is unconstitutional because of its ban on the sale of guns to people between the ages of 18 and 20. There are 3 other relevant decisions that are not here in Maryland, but this shows how the federal courts are going based on the Bruin decision. The case of Firearms Policy Coalition versus McCraw was held that a Texas ban on the carrying of a handgun by 18 to 20-year-olds was unconstitutional. In Beeler versus Long, decided earlier this year, the court held that, Tennessee consented to a judgment in the federal court overturning Tennessee's ban on carrying guns by 18 to 20-year-olds. And then just last week in Minnesota, the case of Worth versus Harrington was handed down by the federal court, and it held that that state's ban on carrying guns by 18 to 20-year-olds was unconstitutional. So you see the way things are going. The Bruin decision is being interpreted by the courts as providing that you cannot ban the sale of guns to people who are adults. And that's what this bill does. So I urge, once again, a vote in favor of this amendment.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion?
Can I ask a roll call? I'm sorry.
Senators request a roll call. Okay, Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very succinct. Look, yes, the senator is right. There's a presumption of constitutionality in every law that we pass, and there's also a presumption that there is a severability in all the laws that we pass. So you're right there. But you've used the word if a number of times. This amendment makes us inconsistent with current Maryland law, and this amendment also asks us, and the premise of your entire argument asks us to hypothesize what a court would do interpreting a current statute of Maryland law. So I'd ask for the body to resist this amendment because it's inconsistent with current Maryland law.
All right, on the amendment, if there's no further discussion, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 26 votes to the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Senator has another amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So let me make it clear. As I said earlier this session, I take the oath that I swore to on our opening day very seriously. I promised that I would support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Maryland. That being the case, I will not vote for a bill that I find unconstitutional. I would like to vote for this bill. This bill, I believe, is unconstitutional in 2 respects. We just covered the first of the 2 respects. This deals with the second. So the bill currently says, pull it out, that the Secretary shall issue a permit within a reasonable time to a person who the Secretary finds, and then subsection 10, based on an investigation, has not exhibited a propensity for violence or instability. Now, we have a red flag law that I voted for several years ago in Maryland that deals with people who are showing a propensity for violence or instability. They can have their guns taken away from them. And that's done on the basis of fixed standards which are determined by a judge after having heard all the evidence. What the Supreme Court rejected in Bruin is a discretionary standard which gives state officials the opportunity to deny people the right to own or carry firearms based on something totally within the discretion of the governmental official. So here in Maryland, when people applied for carry permits, almost invariably they were denied because the state police had the right, in the state police's discretion, to let the person have a carry permit or not. And that fell as being unconstitutional thanks to the Bruin decision. It was the ability of the state officials to exercise discretion without standards, without a court being involved, which caused the demise of our standard, a carry standard here in Maryland. This is the same problem. The language here says, based on an investigation, has not exhibited a propensity for violence or instability. Who's going to make that decision? It's going to be a discretionary decision by some state official, just along the lines of the discretionary decision that the state officials exercised when people applied for carry permits before the Bruin decision. This is unconstitutional. There has to be a hard and fast standard that a state official has to comply with. You cannot leave it up to the discretion of a state official whether or not to allow someone to exercise their Second Amendment rights. That was the holding of the Bruin case. Finally, this amendment eliminates that provision entirely so that is stricken out of the law, and therefore there will no longer be a situation where the state official will have occasion to exercise discretion as to whether to allow someone to exercise his or her Second Amendment rights. I urge the adoption of the amendment and ask for a recorded vote.
All right, the senators move the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this amendment seeks to strike a current provision of our statute that says that the Maryland State Police can consider whether you have a propensity for violence or whether you have you've exhibited violent behavior. So I'm not quite sure you want to do that. It's also, again, we're jumping the gun. This is a current provision of Maryland law that has not been challenged yet. You're asking us to hypothesize what a court would do without having had the matter before the court. So I'd ask the body to reject this amendment.
All right. On the amendment, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 26 votes in the negative. The senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments? Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City. Senator has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
Thank you very much. So this is part 2 of my earlier argument, and I have now the technical fix to my amendment. So a part of this bill calls for increasing the criminal penalties for a person that's in possession of an unregistered gun. So we're increasing it from 3 years to 5 years. And I think my amendment is just good policy for Maryland, knowing our history. It's really important that we make smart policy and don't continue to foster policies that relegate people to a life of illegitimacy, and so never able to re-enter society in full. And so what this amendment does is it requires that, or it says that after the completion of a sentence imposed by the court, a person convicted under this section may enroll in and complete the classroom component of a firearms training course that meets the requirements under this bill. But that person may not handle or possess a firearm during that time. And upon completion of such a program, that person may apply to the court for a modification of their conviction for an opportunity to enter into a probation before judgment within a 5-year period post-conviction. The reason that this is important is that providing gun safety and education to individuals who have been convicted of gun offenses can actually help prevent future offenses. Under this bill, we're providing education to those that we generally think are law-abiding citizens, but it's actually those that have been relegated to criminality in some instances that need to learn about the responsible use and possession of guns. And so under our new law, under this statute, if we pass it, we're going to be teaching about gun safety. I would think that the people that benefit most from gun safety would be those people that have had difficulty with the law. And so this bill doesn't make it easy for anyone. It doesn't do anything to kind of be soft on crime. It's not addressing people that use guns in commission of crimes. It's not addressing people that are repeat offenders. It's simply that first offender, mere possession of a firearm that's unregulated, they will get a criminal conviction under our laws, and they will never, ever, ever be able to overcome that for the rest of their life. Be 22 years old, 23 years old, and do everything right, and for the rest of their life, they're relegated to nothing because our society doesn't recognize them as having a right to participate fully in society. And so I think if we want to be smart on gun crime, we have to do things like allow people opportunities to participate in society legally. I think this is a smart policy, and I wish that the committee would accept it as a friendly amendment because I think it goes hand in hand. You know, increasing penalties alone teaches no one anything. It might get them off the street for a minute, but they're coming right back on the street after the sentence, and they have learned absolutely nothing. But we need to rehabilitate people, and we need to teach them how to operate responsibly. So this is a responsible amendment, and I would ask for your support and urge a favorable vote on this amendment. Thank you.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually really like this idea, and the reason why I like our committee so much is that we take a lot of great ideas and we reduce them to practical application. So I sought out the advice of people that actually do this in real life, the instructors that teach. And the feedback universally was that it was a great idea and it's something worthy of pursuit, but that it's practically difficult to do because when you're conducting these classes, it's hard not to have an actual firearm in the actual classroom when you're doing this. You'd also have to screen people to say, are you a prohibited person? And there's a lot of liability that comes with that process. So it would kind of, the instructors were like the idea and concept, but in practical application, it just didn't work. Another thing is that when you do a motion to modify your conviction, it's different than vacatur. So even if you did this, we can have this, but even if you did this, you're still going to be a prohibited person. And so I like the idea, practical application doesn't work. And so I think this is a worthy thing that I would love to work with you on, but in this 11th hour of our session, I would not want to slow down the progress of this bill for an idea that we haven't fully figured out how to work out practically.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator, hold on. I'll jump and recognize. Are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak on the amendment? Chair recognizes the senator from Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that we should look at this as my good friend from Baltimore is speaking to. The idea we've done so much for rehabilitative services and reintegration that if this person were to be convicted and this allows them to then, through attending this training, successfully completing it, not handling, only doing the classroom portion because the first day is all classroom, the second day is your hands-on range time and the like, that I think this is a good bill or a good request for an amendment. If we look at it, and I guess I'll have to ask the floor leader because you made the comment, Mr. Floor Leader, about that they would automatically be a prohibited person, but I believe that by adding in that they could have the court modify the conviction to a PBJ, wouldn't that then allow them to no longer be a prohibited person to where, I guess I should have asked for permission for the floor leader to yield. I apologize, Mr. President.
Is it a question for the floor leader? Is that yes.
It is. I apologize, Mr. President.
Senator, may proceed.
I guess I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. I think this is a good idea. I think this is thinking outside the box, and it's a reasonable thing that one offense should not allow you or disqualify you for life. If you successfully complete this, you then open yourself up for other employment opportunities, as whether it be for a security guard or the like, because a PBJ, if I recall, under what we're passing, would not make them a prohibited person because it's not a conviction. I think that's what we all decided. So with that, I just would press and urge support of the amendment. Thank you.
All right, that was on the amendment. Are there any senators who wish to speak on the amendment who have not yet spoken? Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City maker of the amendment.
Mr. President, I just wanted to ask if we were going to do a roll call, or I wanted to ask for a roll call if that was possible.
Sure.
Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you. I'd love to take a roll call, but I wanted to respond to the chairman's comments or concerns. First, I want to make it clear about something. We're lawmakers, and it's our responsibility that when we make laws to make the best laws that we can possibly make. And it's one thing to have enhanced penalties or a tough on crime strategy, but if you're doing nothing whatsoever to try to give those people an opportunity down the road, if they do everything right, to overcome that criminality, to overcome that conviction. And so this doesn't ask for vacatur, because it's not asking for vacatur. It's asking for a person to have an opportunity upon the completion of a sentence to then learn about safety when it comes to guns, which they've been convicted for. And then, should they do that, after all of that, a chance to go back to the court and say, hey, I don't want to be a convict for the rest of my life, and I've done all of these things to show that I can be responsible. Can I please have an opportunity for a sentence modification so I don't have to be a criminal for the rest of my life? That's all this does. And the more that we do policies like this, the more opportunities we give people, the less we have people eternally relegated to the criminal milieu, which is better for public safety, it's better for our constituents, and it's better across Maryland. So I understand some firearms instructors are saying, oh, I don't know how we're going to do that. But guess what? They're also saying they don't know how they're going to do all the other increased training that we have under this bill. But we're telling them, we're instructing, we're giving them directive, but we need you to do it as a matter of policy. And so I suggest that's what we need to do here too. So I would urge a favorable vote, and I'd ask for a roll call.
All right. Any senators have not yet spoken? Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, look, I think I've been in Annapolis for 9 years now, and in both chambers. And in both chambers, whenever we come up upon firearms legislation, there's always a conversation across our chamber about that accidental encounter where I forgot I had it in my bag, or I came from hunting and I traveled on a school property or something like that. I'm going to suffer a conviction. This amendment clears that individual. I'm voting green for this amendment.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th district.
In my district, last year, a man responded to a bomb threat at a high school. A gun fell out of his vehicle, and he spent Christmas in jail. He'll never have a gun again. It was a mistake. Granted, there are reasons that should never have happened, but it does happen.
All right. On the amendment, let's hear from the floor leader.
Again, and to the senator, again, great ideas, but reducing to practical application. It does not work. It doesn't work. I cannot impress upon you kind of the importance of this amendment if it gets on, and to the implications of the bill. But you literally, it doesn't work. You will still be a prohibited person under federal law, even if you do this. It's a great idea. It's worth further pursuit, but practically it does not work. And so it asks for the body to resist the amendment with the commitment to work on this further. So,
all right. On the amendment, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 27 votes in the affirmative, the senator's amendment, the amendment is adopted. Let's take a special order on the bill.
Motion to special. I'm sorry.
Is there a motion to special order?
Motion to special order the bill to the appropriate time on Monday.
All right. The senator's motion. Any objections? Without objection, the motion is the bill will be special ordered at the appropriate time on Monday. All right. Let's go. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 844, Delegate Pasture, Housing and Community Development Common Ownership Community Website.
All right. House Bill 844 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 844, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1191, Delegate Pastor, Task Force on Preventing and Countering Elder Abuse.
House Bill 1191 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1191, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1194, Delegate Weigel, Town of Sharpsburg Parking Vehicles Restrictions.
House Bill 1194 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 41 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1194, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will... Let's go to... Oh, there is one more. Cut it off too early. Clerk will read the bill. Oh, one more.
House Bill 1288, Delegate Charles, Video Lottery Employee Licenses, Crime of Moral Turpitude, Alterations.
House Bill 1288 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1288, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 151, yay to nay, please.
I'm sorry, one more time, Senator.
House Bill 151, yay to nay.
151, yay to nay. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 151, I'd like to change from green to red.
151 from green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from the 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. On House Bill 1194, I'd like to be recorded in the green, please.
1194 in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 151 like to be recorded in the red, please.
All right. One more time, I'm sorry.
House Bill 151 in the red, please. Nay.
151 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District.
I'd like to do the same. For 151, I'd like to be recorded in the red.
151 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the senator from District 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 151 in the red, please.
151 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Any further? Any further? All right. Yes, Chair recognizes the senator.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 151, green to red.
151 in the red. Any objection? Hold on. House Bill 151. House Bill 151, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, in reviewing the vagaries of our gun laws, I also invariably House Bill 151.
151, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. We got a lot left to do. Let's go to third reading calendar number 43. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 62, Delegate Charkoudian, Land Use Public Service Companies, Pollinator-Friendly Vegetation Management, and Utility Designated Pollinator Areas.
House Bill 62 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 62 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed.
Mr. President, my button did not work properly.
Yes,
I'd like to be
the
recorded in the green.
B got you.
Yeah.
All right. Any objections on green on 62? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 149, Delegate Hornberger, Maryland Electricians Act revisions. This is the emergency bill.
149. All right. Third reading, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 149, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 169, Delegate Shakutian, Public Utilities, Energy Efficiency Conservation Programs, Energy Performance Targets, and Low-Income Housing.
All right, House Bill 169 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a floor amendment.
Floor amendment.
For
All right,
distribution.
pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
Mr. President, can I proceed?
Senator, may proceed.
Yeah, just very briefly, I would put this in the clarifying technical nature. The AG's office and the governor flagged an issue in the bill, some language. Specifically, this particular amendment will ensure that the federal funds, potentially they could help fund this piece of legislation, only supplement but do not replace state funds. And there was some uncertainty in the current language about the interaction between federal and state funds. Bottom line here is this amendment will make sure that we don't lose access, state access to certain federal funds. So that's in effect all that the amendment does. So with that, Mr. President, I'd move the floor amendment.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. House Bill 1, any further amendments? House Bill 169 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll. Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 169, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 239, Delegate J. Long, Accessory Dwelling Unit Policy Task Force.
House Bill 239 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 239 have received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 263, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County Gaming Senior Activity Center.
House Bill 263 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 263 having received a constitutional majority is declared. But I just am curious what that one does. Gaming at the seniors, right? It's bingo bill, huh? All right. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 370, Delegate Rogers, the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion Day.
House Bill 370 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 370, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 377, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Village of Friendship Heights Special Taxing District, Procurement MC 15-23.
House Bill 377 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 377 have received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 404, Delegate Feldmark, Property Tax, Local Homeowners Credit Supplement, Limitations on Combined Gross Income.
House Bill 404 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 404 having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 418, Delegate Bagnall, Mental Health Workforce Development Fund established.
House Bill 418 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 418 having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 547, the Speaker, Family Prosperity Act of 2023.
House Bill 547 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 547, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 665, Delegate Feldmark, Comptroller and State Department of Assessments and Taxation, Enhancing Access to Property Tax Benefits Report.
House Bill 665 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 665, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 827, Delegate Ivy, Prince George's County Gateway Arts Development Authority established.
House Bill 827 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 827, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1069, Delegate Norwalkie, Baltimore County Property Tax Exemption Real Property Owned by a Fire Company or Rescue Squad.
House Bill 1096 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1096, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from District 2.
House Bill 62 from green to red, please.
62, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, let's go to concurrence calendar number 16. Concurrence calendar number 16. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 379, Senator Kagan, Election Law, Ballot Processing and Reporting Procedures, and 2024 primary date. Motion to concur with House amendments.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. In general, Senate Bill 379 makes changes to state election law relating to ballot issuance, processing, and reporting procedures, provides that the 2024 statewide primary election and Baltimore City municipal office elections be held on the second Tuesday in May. The House amendment makes the bill identical to House Bill 353 as passed by the Senate. Mr. President, the committee moves to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves that we adopt the House, concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 379 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 379, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 719, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Public Safety, State Fuel Security Program.
Senate Bill 719. Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on the House amendments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This departmental bill establishes a state fuel security program administered and enforced by the Maryland Energy Administration and authorizes certain collection, analysis, and distribution of energy-related data by the administration to carry out the program. The House amendments strike language requiring the administration to provide an analysis of the availability of various energy sources and adds language requiring the administration to inform relevant parties of any data breach within 72 hours after learning of the breach. Mr. President, the committee concurs with those House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, these House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 719 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 41 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 719, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to right, let's do here calendar number 41. House bills on third reading. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 20, Delegate Lehman, Vehicle Laws, Horse Riding, Helmet Requirements for Minors.
House Bill 20 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from District 7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
So, Mr. President, as a review, we had this bill earlier. I looked over it. We took, and I thank the chairman for accepting 2 amendments. But as I looked deeper into the bill afterwards, I got a lot of phone calls from the horse industry. People had concerns. This bill, first of all, it's drafted in the transportation article. It's dealing with horse riding. But if you kind of dig into it, initially it was kind of looking at highways, making sure that kids riding their horses on the highway have to wear a helmet. But then it ventures into a public horse riding path. Went through DNR's website. We don't have horse paths, we have horse trails. So that's kind of the wrong definition there. And then it goes further into the grounds of a facility of which the primary purpose is recreational, educational, or competitive equestrian activities. I only know of one place like that in the state, and that's the Prince George's County Equestrian Center. So there were some issues with this, so I kind of worked with the equine industry, and we came back and said, look, let's deal with it. I think it initially came in and dealt with kids riding horses on the road. So what this amendment does is it takes it strictly to that on a highway. It defines and if you look in the code, you see what a highway is. So I just ask that we move favorable on the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate the sponsor of the bill, of the amendment, working with me. I'd like to just take a deeper look at it. So I don't know if we can withdraw, then I can special order.
We can special order the amendment.
Okay, excellent. We'll special order the amendment until the appropriate time on Monday.
All right,
absolutely.
All right. Any objections? Without objection, bill will be the amendment will be special ordered to the appropriate time on Monday. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 179, Delegate Cardin, Maryland Estate Tax Portability Time Period for Election.
House Bill 179 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 179 have received a constitutional majority. Is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 186, Delegate B. Barnes, Victim Services Program Supplementing Federal Funding and Support Victim Services Stabilization Act.
House Bill 186 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 186 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
There you go. House Bill 247, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County Transfer Tax, Sunset Extension.
House Bill 247 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 247 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 543, Delegate Tomlinson, State Procurement, Small Procurement, Definition.
House Bill 543 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 543 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 584, Delegate Ebersol, Income Tax Credit, Food Donations by Qualified Farms, Sunset Repeal and Alterations, Farmers Feeding Families Act.
House Bill 584 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded your vote? Anyone wish to change your vote? Explain your vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 584 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 701, Delegate Kipke, Maryland Community Health Resources Commission, Office of the Comptroller, Treasurer, Attorney General, Comp and Pay Scales, Employees.
House Bill 701 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 701 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 707, the Speaker, Office of the Comptroller, Taxpayer Advocate Division.
House Bill 707 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 707 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 735, Chair Appropriations Committee, University Systems and Marin Facilities, Bonding Authority, and Sale.
House Bill 735 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 735, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 783, Montgomery County Delegation and Prince George's County Delegation, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Minority Business Enterprise Utilization Program Revisions and Extension, MC/PG 101-23.
House Bill 783 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 783, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 887, St. Mary's County Delegation, St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission, New Facilities.
House Bill 887 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 887, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1298, Delegate Chang, Prior Authorizations of State Debt Alterations.
House Bill 1298 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from Charles County.
Yeah, Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Sorry, Senator.
I have an amendment.
On the Senator has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the Senator's amendment. All right, Senator, may I explain the amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. A simple amendment to reallocate prior authorization from last year in the correct form. So for the Boys and Girls Club of Southern Maryland, Indian Head to the Boys and Girls Board of Directors of the Boys and Girls Club of Southern Maryland.
All right. Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Mr. President, again, this is something that amends previous capital budget items, often reflecting members' priorities, and this is one of the members' priorities, so we accept this as a friendly amendment.
Excellent. Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Senator has another.
We're not sure, Mr. President, if we have another amendment. So I think what I'll do is I'd like to special order this for the Monday morning earliest, early.
All right. The floor leader has moved to special order the bill. Any objections? Without objection,
we want to make sure we get this right.
Special order the bill to the appropriate time on Monday.
Mr. President.
Monday, yes. Yes, Chair
Can I
recognizes.
be recorded in the green for House Bill 1096, please?
1096 in the green?
Yes.
Any objections? Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
Senator from Carroll County.
I'd like to be recorded in the red on Senate Bill 719.
719 in the red. Any objections? Without objections, so ordered. Yes, Minority Leader?
Green to red, Senate Bill 719, please.
Green to red 719. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right. Right. I wish it were clear. I wish it were clear. In fact, it might have to repile again. It might have to repile back up, something we already worked on. All right, let's take up concurrence calendar number 14. Number 14. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 90, Senator Kramer, Commercial Law, Consumer Protection, Telephone Solicitation, Stop the Spam Calls Act of 2023.
All right. Let's hear from the chair of the committee on the House amendments. It's in there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 90 establishes consumer protections related to telephone solicitations or spam calls to residents of the state. The House amendments remove from the bill an exemption for non-commercial telephone solicitations for the purposes of public opinion research. We concurred with the House amendments.
All right. The chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any objection to the House amendments? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Question now, Senate Bill 90 is again on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 90, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 162, Senator Lamb, Maryland Aviation Commission Duties and Composition and Member Orientation.
Yes, Chair recognizes the Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 162 makes changes to the functions and membership of the Maryland Aviation Commission. The House amendments change certain duties of the commission and the information the commission must consider in carrying out its duties. The amendments also require the governor to take certain experience into account when appointing members, alter certain reporting member orientation requirements, and apply certain requirements to the open meetings law to the commission. We concurred with the House amendments.
All right. The chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Question now is on the Senate Bill 162 on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 162, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 396, Cecil County Senators Economic Development Upper Shore Regional Council Membership.
Senate Bill 396. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 396 alters the voting membership of the Upper Shore Regional Council by removing 3 county commissioner positions and replacing them with the county executive of Cecil County and 2 members of the Cecil County Council. The House amendments make a conforming change regarding the non-voting members of the Regional Council. Move to concur.
Chair moves to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 396 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 396, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 801, Senator Hester, Economic Development, Cybersecurity, Cyber Maryland Program.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on the House Amendments.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 801 establishes the Cyber Maryland program and the Maryland Technology Development Corporation, or TEDCO, to create a talent pipeline in cybersecurity and serves as the hub for the state workforce, generally coordinates cybersecurity and research innovation in the state. The House amendments authorize rather than require the governor to include an appropriation of $250,000 for the fund and specify that the funds be used for implementing the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Talent Pipeline Management approach, only to the extent that funding is available. We move to concur.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with House amendments. Senate Bill 801 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. Not the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 801, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's do number 24, third reading calendar number 24. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 153, Delegate Wells, Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners, student members, and task force to study compensation and student members.
All right, House Bill 153 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 153, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 226, Delegate Love, criminal law, person in a position of authority, sexual offenses with a minor.
House Bill 226 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 226, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 297, Delegate Bartlett, criminal law, victims of child sex trafficking and human trafficking, safe harbor and service response.
House Bill 297 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 297, have received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 758, Delegate Bartlett, sexual assault evidence collection kits, preservation and storage.
House Bill 758 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 758, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 830, Delegate Terrassa, residential construction or significant renovation, electric vehicle charging.
House Bill 830 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is an amendment that was previously offered on the Senate bill and accepted that just asks MEA to do additional study items. This will bring the House bill into the same posture as the Senate bill. Asked to move the amendment.
All right, Senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Yes, this is a very friendly amendment, Mr. President. We will accept it.
All right. Friendly amendment. Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Any further amendments? If not, HB 830 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 39 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 830, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 908, Delegate Clippinger, Electricity, Community Solar Energy Generating Systems Programs, and Property Taxes.
House Bill 908 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 908, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1049, Delegate Bridges, Transportation Assaults on Public Transit Operators Report.
House Bill 1049 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will call the roll, or take the call. Whew. 43 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 1049, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. I wish it were. I wish it were. Not yet. Not yet. Soon. I don't even know where these things are. What is this? All right, let's go back to this. This is a special order calendar. House Bill 191 out of budget and tax.
House Bill 191, Delegate Polakovich-Carr, Income Tax, Payments of Fines, Penalties, and Other Amounts, Addition, Modification, Favorable to Amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor
Thank
leader.
you. I move to special order the appropriate time on Monday.
All right. Motion is to special order the bill at the appropriate time on Monday. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, let's go to we've got a concurrence calendar number 10 out of judicial proceedings. All right, clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 173, Senator Waldstreicher, Automatic Expungement Clarification.
Senate Bill 173 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call. Whoops, I'm sorry. Just kidding. Deep breath. 173, let's hear from the chair of the committee on the House amendments. That'd be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. President. As passed by the Senate, Senate Bill 173 clarifies language enacted under Chapter 680 of 2021 regarding automatic expungement of records pertaining to charges in cases of meeting specific criteria. The House amendments add clarifying language to an expungement notice for provision in existing law. The committee moves to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. On the amendments, any objection? Yes, chair recognizes the minority whip on the
Mr.
amendment.
President, can I ask the chair to yield a question?
Will the floor leader, or will the vice chair?
Vice chair, that's
yes.
fine.
All right, Senator may proceed.
So we supported this bill before because remind me and remind the body, is it NOLO, this is for expungements for
any non-convictions.
Okay, that's all this does, and the House amendments don't change that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Any further discussion on the House amendments? Any objections to the House amendments? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 173 is now again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 41 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 173, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 191, Senator Jackson, Prince George's County, Office of the Sheriff, Duties, and Deputy Sheriffs.
All right. Let's hear from the chair of the committee. Special order?
Yay. To the appropriate time on
Monday. Any objections? Any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered at the appropriate time on Monday. Clerk will read the next bill. All right.
Senate Bill 194, Senator Sidnor, ground leases, notices, and billings, forms, and requirements.
Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments make clarifying language changes to the cross-file House Bill 118 that passed the Senate unanimously. Move for the adoption of the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Move for the adoption of the current.
Senate concurs with the House amendments. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 194 is again on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 194, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 277, Senator McKay, real property, sheriff sales, procedures, and subordinate interests.
Senate Bill 277 is on. Let's hear from the chair on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments add uncodified language authorizing the judiciary to, on, or before June 30th, 2023 to transfer up to $12 million of the fiscal year 2023 general fund appropriation for the judiciary to the Circuit Court Real Property Records Improvement Fund. JPR concurs with the House amendments.
All right. The chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? If not, any objections to the House amendments? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Question now is on Senate Bill 277 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 277, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 383, Senator McKay, Family Law, Custody and Visitation, Notice of Intent to Travel, Maryland Child Abduction Prevention Act.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments conform the bill to the House cross-file as passed by the Senate by making clarifying changes. JPR concurs.
All right, JPR concurs with the House amendments. Any further discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Any Senate Bill 383 is now again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 383, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 487, Senator Waldstreicher, criminal procedure violation of pretrial or post-trial condition.
Let's hear from the Vice Chair of the Committee on the House amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. As passed by the Senate, this explicitly prohibits a person, including an incarcerated person, from violating a pretrial or post-trial condition that prohibits the person from contacting, harassing, or abusing an alleged victim. The House amendments simply provided better and clearer wording as to how to do this, and the committee moves to concur with the House amendments.
All right. The Vice Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 487 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 487, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 535, Senator James, Human Relations, Housing Discrimination Service Dogs.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments defines service dog in conformity with the Americans with Disabilities Act. It clarifies that protections of the Act do not apply to emotional support animals, applies the Act to all persons with a disability, and makes clarifying language changes. JPR concurs with the House amendments.
All right, the chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, The Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 535 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 535, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 653, Senator Carter, Child Need of Assistance, Neglect, Cannabis Use.
Recognize the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House amendments conform the bill to the House cross-file as passed by the Senate by changing the effective date of the bill to July 1st, 2023.
All right. Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you,
Excuse
Mr.
me.
President. I wonder whether the chair would yield just for a couple of questions.
The chair yield for a question.
So I'm reading the bill, and I don't remember reading it before, so I apologize. We're talking about a parent or guardian who wants to be sort of immune from using cannabis with a minor, starting on the date that cannabis becomes legal in the state of Maryland. Am I right so far? I'm wondering about, I'll keep going, interrupt me when I'm, the child's health or welfare is harmed or placed at substantial risk of harm. I just wonder if that's legal, is that defined? Does it count if someone, I'm sorry, should I just ask a bunch of questions or should I pause?
No. Sure, go ahead, finish up and then.
If you could just explain it more broadly, because I'm curious about, could a parent or guardian be using cannabis in a vehicle, in a closed vehicle?
No.
And
No,
how
so-
would we define the harm?
Yes, Senator. So it just, and I'm looking at the sponsor for to clarify this, but it's just saying that the use of cannabis, like for instance, if you were a medical cannabis patient, the use of cannabis is not the basis for neglect. It doesn't mean that you're neglectful of your parenting. You want to step in? Limited to child in need of assistance cases.
So the effective date of this bill, you just said, was changed to the date that
The cannabis becomes legalized, I think, right? July 1st.
recreational marijuana, recreational cannabis is going to be legal.
That's right. And just because you use cannabis does not mean that you are a neglectful parent, essentially.
Again, my
Like if you were
example was inside of vehicle with the windows closed. I'm not suggesting that a parent or guardian.
I think it's just the simple use of it, not that. I mean, I think that would be abusive in a sense. You're essentially intoxicating your child. I mean, that's a different scenario. It's basically like if you were, yes, risk of harm. But like it's essentially the analogy that I think of is if you're a responsible alcohol user, like you drink socially, but you're not, a drunkard, and you never jeopardize the safety of your child. Same kind of parallel scenario.
If I'm a social drinker and I'm around my child and I'm doing it socially, that doesn't necessarily have the child be at risk of harm.
Your use cannot put the risk of your child. You cannot impose any risk to your child. The use has to be responsible and not pose a risk to your child.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more time with the same.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, the senator from District 40 is offering some guidance for us.
Yeah.
Okay, I am curious about the specific example of being in a vehicle and whether the person is driving or is a passenger. Certainly, there's the potential of a minor being at risk of substantial harm.
On July 1st, we had this discussion with a senator from Prince George's. You cannot smoke cannabis in a car while moving. You can't do that on July 1st. That's a specific offense. But
as a passenger, not driving.
You're posing a risk to your child, and your consumption cannot do that under this. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Question remains on the House amendments. Further discussion on the House amendments. If not, any objections? Without objection, Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 653 is again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 32 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 653, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 797, Senator Heddleman, Task Force on Preventing and Countering Elder Abuse.
Senate Bill 797, let's hear from the chair of the committee on the amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The House amendments add 2 members to the task force, a representative of the Maryland Health Care Commission and 1 representative of the Maryland State Police. JPR concurs.
All right, questions on the House amendments? Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 797 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 797, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, we have another. We're going to have to do a rule. Madam Chair, are we ready? All right. We have Senate third reading calendar number 49. Let's recognize the chair. We have on the.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we have 2 readings of the bill on the same day on House Bill 556.
All right, the chair is moving that we suspend the rules to have 2 readings on the same day. Everyone understand the motion? Any objections to the motion? Oh, sorry. House Bill 556. Just a little piffle that we have. So we would have to suspend the rules. This is the cannabis reform bill. So it would be the same, we're in the same legislative day. So the motion is to suspend the rules to hear 2 readings in the same day. Any objections to the motion? Without objection, the motion carries. House Bill 556 is now again before the Senate on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee. Chair has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
All right, the pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
All the things.
Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment, there's actually 2 amendments that basically identify in the bill that the Office of Social Equity is an independent office that's a function within the Maryland Cannabis Administration. So these amendments just clarify that and insert this language into the bill. So I'd move the amendments.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the senator's amendment is adopted. House Bill 556 is on third reader for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I ask the floor leader a question before the vote?
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. We had an earlier extended conversation on the floor about public smoking of marijuana and the concerns of the local jurisdictions on being able to put penalties and enforcement in place. And fairly close vote on an amendment that did not move forward, but wanted to just ask you as the floor leader what options there might be available to these local jurisdictions moving forward in the future because I think I would say that this is not just an unintended consequence. This is something we can predict is going to be a consequence. So I just want to be able to go back to our local jurisdictions to give them some guidance on what they'll be able to do in the future.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm hearing your question. If you're asking the question that you asked when you proposed the amendment, there's nothing in the bill or the amendment that's just offered that changes that. So I guess, do you want to restate?
We were trying to allow the local jurisdictions to put in penalties that are more stringent than the state.
Understood.
The current
And
state restrictions.
So that amendment was not adopted on the bill when we had the Senate bill before us, and this bill does not have that language in it, in its current posture.
So this might be an issue like we sometimes do with major reform bills, whatever the category might be, that we have to go back and take a look at and make some technical corrections in the future.
I'm fairly confident that for as long as we all live and breathe, we will be working on this in the same way that we are on alcohol bills every single year when we're.
Yes, and I'll just, my last point, and I thank you for this time to put this on the record, but there were other bills that were introduced to actually lower those penalties, and that's causing great consternation to these local jurisdictions.
I honestly can't speak to the penalties because they did not come before the Senate Finance Committee. We had the bill that set up the framework to regulate the new industry that was adopted because of actions taken by the voters. So in terms of bills dealing with penalties, that would be in JPR, I believe, but is not reflected in this bill.
Okay. I will follow up, and I appreciate this because it's of great concern to our local governments to be able to control this because, again, it's not an unintended consequence, it's a predictable one. So just trying to get out in front of it.
Thank you.
All right. We are on third reading for final passage. The amendment was adopted. The floor amendment? The floor amendment was adopted. The question now, HB 556 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 30 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 556, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from District 1.
I'm a little confused. I had heard the amendment, but I'm not exactly sure we've actually hit a green button or a red button on that amendment. Or we did not need to do that.
It's a question of parliamentary procedure.
Yes, sir.
On the amendment from the third reading version of the amendment, is that the?
Yes, sir.
Asked if there were any objections, and there were no objections to the amendment.
Okay, then that's why there was no.
Right.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any further? Let's see. All right, we can do it now. Chair recognizes the chair of the Capital Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to reconsider the special order on House Bill 1298 and bring it back to third reader.
All right, the chair is moving to reconsider the vote by which the Senate bill, House Bill 1298, prior authorizations, was special ordered till Monday. Are there any objections? Without objection, the motion carries. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1298, Delegate Chang, prior authorization of state debt alterations.
All right, Senator may proceed.
Mr. President, we want to make sure that every member has an opportunity to look at this. This is ready to go. I urge a green vote.
All right, so we have House Bill 1298 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1298, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. So do we have the folder for the deputies? We do. We have it. All right, Chair recognizes the senator from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I be recorded in the green on 1298?
1298 in the green. Any objections? Without objections, so ordered. We have, all right, want to reconsider the vote by which we special ordered the concurrence?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the vote which we special ordered Senate Bill 277.
All right, Senate Bill 277, reconsider the special order by which, or reconsider the vote by which the special order occurred, or for Monday, the concurrence, the special order of the concurrence to Monday. Are there any objections? Without objection, the motion carries. Could pull the bill back up. $277. What is 191. So let's clarify that the special order, the motion was to special order on 191, not 277, 191. Are there any objections to that motion? Without objection, the bill will be pulled. The bill is back before us. Clerk will read the bill. There's a lot of folders,
Senate Bill 191, Senator Jackson, Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff Duties and Deputy Sheriffs.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. JPR moves to concur with the House amendments.
On the House amendments, okay, the motion is to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with House amendments. Senate Bill 191 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 191, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Oh, we don't have that. All right, let's go to concurrence calendar number 11 out of Education, Energy, and Environmental Affairs. Clerk, read the first bill.
Senate Bill 102, Senator Bailey, Natural Resources Recreational Crabbing Gear, individuals under the age of 16.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill authorizes an individual younger than age 16 who's catching or attempting to catch crabs in the waters of the Chesapeake Bay, and its title, Tributaries, without a recreational crabbing license to use a collapsible trap or net ring, as described by the Department of Natural Resources and Regulations. The House amendments clarify that a recreational crabber under the age of 16 can also use hand lines and dip nets as currently authorized by regulation. Change conforms the bill to House Bill 465, has unanimously passed by both the House and the Senate. Mr. President, The committee moves to concur with those House amendments, Mr. President.
All right, the motion is to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 102 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 102, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 143, Senator Feldman, Electricity Net Energy Metering and Virtual Net Energy Metering, Accrual of Net Excess Generation Net Metering Flexibility Act.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill generally authorizes eligible customer generators to accrue net excess generation indefinitely. The House amendments exempt electric cooperatives from the bill. Mr. President, the committee moves to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the committee moves to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Any let's see, Senate Bill 143 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 143, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 157, Senator Waldstreicher, Municipalities Charter Amendments Notice.
Recognize the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill generally modifies notice requirements for charter amendments within a municipality. The House amendments correct an erroneous reference to the word section and is technical in nature. Mr. President, the committee will move to concur with those House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves to concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 157 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone who should change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 157, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 263, Senator Jackson, Maryland Higher Education Commission Access to Mental Health Advisory Committee Establishment.
Senate Bill 263, recognize the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. In general, Senate Bill 263 establishes the Access to Mental Health Advisory Committee within the Maryland Higher Education Commission. The House amendment adds 3 student members to the commission, conforming the bill to House Bill 573 as passed by the Senate. Mr. President, the committee will concur with the House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the Senate concurs with the House amendments. Senate Bill 263 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 263 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 300, Senator McCray, Baltimore City Young Readers Program Expansions and Alterations.
Recognize the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. In general, Senate Bill 300 transfers the administration of the Young Readers Grant Program to the Maryland State Library Agency, expands the program from Baltimore City to a statewide program, and increases the annual appropriation. The House amendment conforms the bill to House Bill 243 as passed by the Senate. The committee moves to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the Chair moves that we concur with the House amendments. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. Senate Bill 300 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone who should change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 43 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 300 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 341, Senator Feldman, Public Senior Higher Education Institutions Reproductive Health Services Plans Requirements.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 341 requires certain public senior higher education institutions to develop and implement a reproductive health services plan. The House amendment conforms the bill to House Bill 477 as passed by the Senate. The committee moves to concur with the House amendments.
All right, the chair moves we concur with the House amendments. Question is on the amendments. Chair recognizes Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if I could ask the chairman to yield for question.
Will the chair yield for a question? Chair may proceed.
So
Yes.
does the House amendments, what's the difference between the posture the bill went over?
Right.
From
The
the
only
Senate?
the only difference, and I think we went through this in a prior iteration on the Senate bill. They took out the House took out the provisions dealing with access to transportation. There was some concern about some liability issues and some other topics. So that's the only difference, and we agreed with that House amendment, which again, part of the plan under the bill as introduced had access to transportation as part of what was called for in the plan, and the House took that portion out, and we agreed with that.
So now thank you. So now the plan has to be about access to care, but it does not have to include a transportation.
Correct.
And was there any changes made as far as ensuring a review of Title IX protections or anything of that nature?
No, the only difference is the one I just described. Every other aspect of the House and Senate versions are the same.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I again think this bill has some glaring omissions in it relative to how we can incentivize and help our pregnant, the pregnant women attending these higher education institutions that want to continue with their studies and have the child. And so I think we're missing that element of this when we talk about choice, that it's supposed to be a choice, and we should be supporting whichever choice is made instead of just choosing one side of the choice to be supportive of. So I'll be voting no. I actually think striking the transportation is a good amendment, though. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. On the House amendments, any further discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the House amendments are adopted. The Senate Bill 341 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 341, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. We're going to pause on this calendar. We're going to, if we could just special order this calendar to the appropriate time. I think we have a motion. Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to motion to reconsider the vote that was taken on House Bill 824.
All right, first, the motion on the special order first is reconsider the motion, the special order motion on 824. Any objections? Without objection?
President?
Oh, yes. Senator, Chair recognizes the minority leader.
This motion is to reconsider the
special order.
The special order.
Right, the special order on Monday. So,
didn't
yes.
get that. Sorry.
The motion is to reconsider the special order for the bill on Monday.
So if I get this
bring
correct,
the bill back up.
After the floor amendment was passed.
That's correct.
There was immediate motion by the chair to special order it.
Yes.
So right now you're going to reconsider the vote to special order.
That's correct. It's got to be fixed on the board.
Okay. Motion to reconsider the vote for the special order. That special order will then be lifted. Where will the bill be then?
The bill would be on third reader with amendments that were adopted in committee and on the floor.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question is on the special order. Are there objections? Without objection, the motion carries. House Bill 824 is again before us on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the majority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like the motion to reconsider the vote that was taken on Amendment 713-828/1.
The motion is to reconsider the vote by which, if we could pull it back up, Madam Clerk.
713-828/1.
copy, otherwise it's not going to go through. Here, sorry about that. Oh, you got it, okay.
You're looking at it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, the question is on the motion to reconsider. So the question is on the motion to reconsider the amendment. It's not on the amendment itself. So the question, Chair recognizes the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this motion is in order because it was made by a member that was on the prevailing side.
That's correct,
Correct.
sir.
Of an amendment that passed 27 to 16.
That's correct, sir.
That's what this, so we're going to reconsider now an amendment that passed this body 27 to 16. That's what we're doing?
Senator's motion.
Just want to make sure
Sorry.
that everybody knows that it wasn't a close vote, but it was 27 to 16 according to the vote sheet. Thank you, Mr. President.
That's all right. That observation is correct. It's a long day. Long day. All right. On the motion, any further discussion? If not, green vote is to reconsider. Red vote is to not. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 28 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 8, or excuse me, the motion carries. We now have the floor amendment on the floor again. Question is on the amendment. Chair recognizes the Minority Whip.
Questions on the amendment, Mr. President?
Reconsider the vote by which it passed. So the amendment is back on the up for debate.
Understood. Yeah. Well, I actually think the sponsor of the amendment made some great points, and will continue to support the amendment as I did on the last round. I think it's something we need to look closely at. So I will support the amendment.
All right. On the amendment, Chair recognizes the senator from District 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I can say my puzzler is puzzled. But I just want to say there comes a time, this is a good amendment. This is a reasonable amendment. And I think what was on display here today is exactly what the public needs to see. Because they send people down here with character, with honor, with commitment to their communities and doing the right thing. And we all face a point in our lives where we do something for the good, for the right. And there comes a time in everybody's life that you simply stand for something or you stand for nothing. And I'm curious to watch this vote happen. It's really an interesting dynamic I'm observing today. Thank you.
Chair, thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we first voted on this, I voted against this, and the reason that I voted against this is because, as I thought through this amendment, this was about illegal possession. This is about someone who has broken the law. This is not about someone who made a mistake, who had a legal license to carry a gun and went to the airport by mistake. They didn't have they forgot they had the gun in their possession or something. That's not what this is. This is someone who broke the law. This is someone who had an illegal firearm, illegal possession. So the idea that we would then think that firearm training would be a justification for providing some relief for someone who had an illegal firearm, I don't understand how this makes sense, and so I will be again voting against this amendment.
All right, on the amendment, Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you very much. It's pretty troubling to me, the lengths that people will go to ensure that we don't amend something which is a good policy. It's come to my attention that the amendment was technically, because it went through about 5 or 6 different reprints and iterations, that the amendment was drawn by the amendment office, because I wasn't able to get it done within the committee, to the wrong section of the code. And so technically, as it exists, the amendment is actually inappropriate. In my opinion, the appropriate response to that would be to allow me to special order the bill to get the technical fix in and support the amendment. I understand that there's negotiations that happen between the chambers, but that does not overshadow good policy. And, you know, all we hear from people in this body and in the media and all across the state is about guns, 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 firearms, firearms, firearms. And we're responsible for making the best policy, not just the most popular policy or the most appealing policy to certain people that have a certain interest or certain bias. We are supposed to make balanced, good policy, and that's what this amendment did. And so I do not appreciate the lengths that are being taken to destroy it. I understand technically it won't work, but I would ask that we would allow me a special order to make the technical fix to the amendment. We can take it up on Monday. Thank you.
All right, Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'll just, as I said before, and I really do appreciate the senator from Baltimore City and her efforts. And like I said, it's a very good idea, but the practical application is something that's going to take a lot of deep work. And at this 11th hour, it's just not feasible. But I do believe that it's in concept a good idea. And so, as I said before, there's practical application, and they're great ideas, but right here the two don't meet. And so I thank the senator for her efforts.
All right, Chair recognizes the Minority Leader.
Would the committee chair please rise for a question?
Senator may proceed.
I just wanted to understand your last statement there. Were you saying that the concept does not work, or that the amendment does not work because it's in the wrong section of the bill, as the
that's
sponsor
part of it,
said?
but it deals with convictions of state law and federal law, and this implicates a federal prohibitor, and we can't change that. And so I think there is the concept of the amendment is actually a very laudable goal and good, but it's just we can't make it work, and it will jeopardize the rest of the bill. And so that's why I was against it. Like I said, great ideas, but you have to reduce them to practical application that actually works. And here the two don't meet.
All right, I appreciate that. Mr. President, I would say, I think the sponsor of the amendment brings up a good question. If, again, we are working in very short period of time on a number of different things, and if the amendment was written to the wrong part of the bill, and she believes it could be written to the correct part, I would agree with her special order that we allow her the opportunity to get the amendment to the right section of the bill, and that we can take on. Again, this amendment passed 27-16. So the idea of her amendment was favorable to many, many people in this chamber, even after the chair said that it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work because it's not in the right section of the bill, I believe she deserves the opportunity to have that amendment drawn to the right section. A special order would be in order. We can resolve this on Monday.
All right,
and would like to see a recorded vote on the special order.
All right. Any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee.
Just again, it's not just that it was drawn to the wrong section of code; it was drawn to the prohibited person section. But there's a conflict here with federal law, and I've been on the phone with counsel, believe me, tonight for hours trying to figure this out, and it's not going to be something we're going to be able to resolve in the waning hours of session. So, again, the practical application and the concept don't meet here, and we will continue to work on this, but I would resist the special order.
All right. Well, let's see. We're on the
special order.
One moment. We're on the amendment. Let's.
I
To be
think
clear,
there
I
was a
don't think the
motion for a
senator's
special order, and I thought we were debating this.
One
point of
moment,
order.
just one moment, really quickly. The question is on the amendment. So, don't believe that the minority leader was making a motion to special order on the amendment. Is that correct? Had or had not?
Mr. President, I thought that the sponsor of the amendment in her statement there asked for a special order.
That was not my understanding. It was saying that if the amendment were disposed, that the senator, that after that, that there would be the opportunity. So the question was on the amendment. Did not hear the motion on the to special order on the amendment. I think the amendment was technically incorrect. Unless the senator withdrew the amendment, I don't believe that was the case. Let's hear from the maker of the amendment.
I did not withdraw the amendment, but I wanted to get the opportunity to have a special order to get the technical fix on the amendment that was before us. If I can't do that, I still want a special order the bill so that I can get the technical fix.
The senator can special order it on the amendment or on the bill. Just wasn't sure if it was before we take it. The question right now is on the amendment. We could probably take a vote on the amendment and then decide whether or not the special order would be probably the most appropriate if the senator is willing to. Any discussion there? All right, questions on the amendment? Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote?
Mr. President.
Yes, the chair recognizes the.
I know I'm a little slow. What are we voting on
You
at
said
this
it about
point?
3 times, Senator, and it's on the board, on the floor amendment. The question is on the amendment.
So we're voting on the amendment that was passed 27-16.
That's correct. It's back on the floor. All right, everyone record their vote. Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 26 votes in the negative. The senator's vote, the amendment fails. The question is, the bill is now on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'm asking for a special order to get a technical fix to the amendment. I do dispute what the chairman says about the impracticality of it. That was taken into consideration in the drafting of the amendment, which is exactly why it spelled out that a person would take classroom courses and have no direct contact with the firearm, and that is not something that is impossible. And so for those reasons, I would like the opportunity to have the technical fix. Thank you.
On the special order?
So, yes, the question, all right, the senator has moved to special order the bill. Let's hear from the floor leader, followed by the senator from Baltimore City on the senator's motion to special order.
Sure, again, I appreciate the effort, but this is going to be more than just a technical fix. And again, in the 11th hour, it's not something that's feasible in this hour.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City, Baltimore County, on the motion.
Thank you. Respectfully, and again, I respect this body a lot. I've been in the position that the good delegate senator from the 41st, standing up for something that you believe against all others, and then, interestingly, a year or so later, finding out that that was probably the right move. Also, why is the special order? It was interesting to me that we're saying that we don't want to do this because it would contradict federal law, but I believe that we are codifying an entire tax system, distribution system on a product that is illegal under federal law. It would appear to me that we could figure out, and I've seen us do amazing things in minutes, and I believe that this senator and this issue and this effort to try to come up with a way that when people break the law, that they have an opportunity to fully participate. We did it with voting, right, with felonies with voting. We're looking to see how, with guns, or the constitutional right to have a gun, and also finally, why I think this deserves a special order, and especially this senator deserves a special order, is that there's been a question. Remember, people have asked, like, why aren't we looking at the suppliers? Why aren't we looking at the traffickers? And there's 2 days ago, someone was convicted of trafficking who was part of, one of our institutions. So colleagues, however you decide to vote on the amendment, the senator, as well as the issue, as well as the fact that 26 of you thought it was a good idea, and that we've managed to work through difficult, complicated questions in a matter of days, that we could come up with a solution for this. So I'm voting to support the special order.
All right, thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, colleagues, this chamber, this General Assembly has done incredible work to rehabilitate those who have violated laws, served time in prison. Much of that good work is a consequence of the sponsor of the motion before us, the good senator from Baltimore. But colleagues, this is a very important bill that is before us right now. The notion that at the moment we would jeopardize passage of this bill during this session in an effort to ensure that an individual who was arrested and convicted for possession of an illegal firearm, so we can ensure that we figure out a way for them to possess a firearm at some time in the future. For me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that. I don't want to see us lose this bill as we are trying to maneuver our way this session to ensure that someone who was convicted for having an illegal firearm can now possess a firearm. If we're going to pursue it, we can work on that next session. I don't believe we should jeopardize this important bill over this issue at this point in time. So I will resist the motion, and I would ask, Mr. President, that we get this bill done this session and not put it at risk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 1.
Mr. President, the senator from Montgomery County may not recall, but this bill just yesterday came before JPR. There was some discussion that we weren't going to even have an actual public meeting or a hearing on said bill. This bill, HB 824, had been heavily amended over 5.5 hours yesterday. Yesterday. So if it's such an important bill that had just been heard in this chamber just yesterday, we could honor the senator's request for a special order. It doesn't fly correctly. Honor the special order for the senator. Do the right thing.
All right, question is on the special order. Any further discussion? Yeah, Chair recognizes the minority whip on the special order.
Mr. President, the only reason this is an issue is because a bill got jerry-rigged into this that should have been a standalone straight up or down vote. Because I don't know why. I don't know what the politics are, why we can't have a straight up or down vote on criminal penalties without tying them into a gun control bill that seems to be very much on the track to being ruled unconstitutional. But it's an interesting trick to put those together because, you know, a lot of us would really like to be able to vote for something that punishes criminals. So I think the special order is very much in order just to see if we can get this technical fix corrected. We've got 72 hours till midnight on Monday night. I imagine we can get things working. So I'm going to, I support the special order.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Senator. Question is on the special order. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Do we have the amendment? All right. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 26 votes in the negative, the motion fails. Chair recognizes the minority whip. Has an amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. Have an amendment?
Senator has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute. Pages who have been working really hard, really hard. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had a lot of talk today about taxpayers, taxes, and fees. I think one really unfortunate thing this bill is doing is, in addition to targeting in the middle of a firearm, a wave of crime dealing with guns, involved with guns, criminals using guns, we've passing a bill trying to go after the group of people that statistically are pretty much the most law-abiding group of people you could find, and that's concealed carry permit holders. However, I want to say that really unfortunate, it is literally raising the price to get a concealed carry permit, when honestly that this constitutional right to keep and bear arms for a law-abiding citizen is out of reach a lot of times financially for some folks in our state that would otherwise would like to be able to access that right. So I acknowledge that the Senate took the House made it much higher. The Senate did knock that back a little, but I think what we should do is just keep the price, the permit fee to the price that it is now. So my amendment simply takes it back to $75 and $50 for the application and the renewal fee. I would move the amendment, Mr. President.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the fees have not been raised in over 30 years, well over 30 years, since William Donner Shaver was governor. So we've raised them, a modest amount, and then, as you mentioned in the Senate, we took them down. So I resist this amendment. It's been well over 30 years since the fees have been raised, and even then, the governor at the time suggested raising them to what they are here in the bill. So I resist the amendment.
All right. On the amendment, any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? If not, chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Mr. President, I just would ask for a roll call. Again, this right is out of reach for some of the folks in our society who are the most disadvantaged, and I believe very strongly we should try to keep it as limited as possible. So I would move my amendment and ask for roll call.
All right. On the amendment, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 26 votes in negative. The senator's amendment fails. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City and County.
Thank you. I would like to be recorded red in the last amendment, please.
In the prior amendment, senator wishes to be recorded in the red. Any objections? Any objections? Without objection. So ordered. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? We are still waiting on one final printing of one. So we can
move to special order to the end of the calendar, Mr. President.
This is this calendar is the challenge. We can do this. Well.
Move to special order until Monday, as we were doing.
Senator is not recognized on that. All right, let's do this. Let's we can special order it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. From the chair. What? All right, 5 minutes. Any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered at the appropriate time for 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and why don't we recess, clearly. Why don't we take a 5-minute recess? Chair recognizes the majority leader.
I move the Senate of Maryland recess for 5 minutes only.
5 minutes only. 5 minutes only. Without objection, so ordered.